from WCI3 Plus. With your host, Kevin Lighty, this is Behind the Forecast.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Behind the Forecast. That's me right there, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty. You have found the show that talks all things weather, and got a good one here today for you. First, we're going to do the viral weather videos of the week, and let me tell you, tornado themed. A lot of tornadoes. Surprisingly, in July, we're going to go through some of those videos, and the second half, Barry Hauser with the Fighting Illini Marching Band. The director is here with us to talk about how weather impacts his students, him, and some of the big weather events that's occurred. You may not always kind of put it together, but the weather and acoustics and band and the sound and what they do, it goes hand in hand. So we talk with him in great detail about that. So that's coming up. But first, viral weather videos. Let's go from 5 to number 1. Here we go, number 5. All right, we're taking to West Virginia. Okay, I won't sing. Buchanan, West Virginia. Looks like a normal, right? Normal, a little water flowing there. But all of a sudden, coming out of the left of the screen, oh, look out. Wow. Just floating on down the river. How about that barn there? Oh, boy. Don't see that every day. Heavy rainfall causing this, obviously. And water can pick up a lot of things. Even things that can be heavy. You would think, oh, I want to look at the debris. Oops, somebody's going to miss that 4x4, that's for sure. Man, the power of water is amazing. Not in a good way either. Viral video number 4. All the rest of these are tornado related. I'll just tell you that. All right, here we go. We're in Lawrence County, Ohio. And you can see a tornado forming there. Here, let me get my face off the screen. You don't see me. Let's look at the tornado. There it is, developing off in the distance. You can see the rapid rotation there. See the wall cloud? See that kind of little lowering, and then you get the funnel that forms. Pretty impressive tornado there that occurred. And that was about a week ago. But severe weather in July, you know, typically always think, you think of April, May, maybe even June, but usually July, right? It's supposed to calm down. Nope, not the case. We've had lots of severe weather, and these next few videos are going to show it as well. Other areas hit. Let's take you here to Owenton, Kentucky. Whoa, look at this. Up close. Look at those trees. Look at these trees. This tornado rips across, picking up debris, flinging it into the air. Look at that. Wild stuff. Owenton, Kentucky, with this tornado video. And you can just see, again, look at that. Such strong motion, violent rotation, counterclockwise rotation, picking up and causing damage there. That did cause some damage. But we had a tornado that occurred in Appleton, Wisconsin, okay, that did this damage. Cars flipped over. Power lines draped over. The car that's flipped over there. Okay? Look at that truck. Look at the truck. This is why we tell you, probably shouldn't ride out a tornado in your car or even in your truck. It's going to pick it up, toss it, have scenes like this. Again, Appleton, Wisconsin, hit hard by tornadoes. And this is some of the damage. But this next video, look at that house. My goodness, that looks something from a movie, right? Like the old Twister house or something. Prepare yourself for this next video. Watch this. This is the actual tornado that caused some of this damage here. But somebody caught it on their dash cam. Here we go, folks. Viral video number 1. And whoa! Look at those power lines. Oh! Look at those power lines coming down right in front of the person. But we're going to show you also the back camera view from this dash cam and see how they narrowly escaped one of those poles landing on them. Here we go. And boom! Look how close that was to landing on that vehicle. Can you imagine? Oh my goodness. Got to stay situationally aware, know where you're at with storms, power lines down, dangerous situation. I always tell you, I'll obviously always treat those down lines as still active. That is some scary stuff. All right, guys, Barry Hauser's coming up with us. He's going to talk about maybe some scarier situations he's been in with the weather, with the Fighting Illini Marching Band. He's got some great stuff he's going to share with us. So that is coming up after the break. Join us for more Behind the Forecast. Everybody, welcome back here to Behind the Forecast. I'm WC3 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty. It says so right there, bottom of the screen. All right, special guest in here, and let me tell you, really excited to have him with us. Someone that is absolutely impacted by the weather and everyone that is around him as well as he directs them, or should I say, conducts them. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the Fighting Illini Marching Band Director, Barry Hauser, in the house. How you doing, Barry?
I'm doing all right, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Listen, I'm excited to kind of talk to you here about how weather impacts you and the folks out there. I think a lot of people don't realize just how much the weather plays a huge role in what you guys do, whether it's at the games, whether it's practices, some of the camps and stuff that you do. Talk a little bit about how weather plays a role in what you guys do when it comes to the Fighting Illini Marching Band.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, weather impacts us pretty significantly since what we do is completely outside. So with the variety of weather patterns we have here in central Illinois, when we look at summer weather, when we look at fall weather, when we look at winter weather, all of those variations and variants impact the operation of 400 plus students. So we need to keep them as safe as possible. So whether that be heat related, whether that be lightning, whether that be rain, sometimes we're still outside if it's raining. And then of course, like we experienced in November, the snow that hit us that we never thought that we would be performing in that kind of snow during a football game, but we did. And so weather is a really important thing that we follow, and it has everything to do with our daily operations.
So let's pull it back to here just a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about kind of your trajectory, kind of coming up, as being the director, and kind of how that came about with you.
Well, I'll be real honest. It was never the intention to be director of the Marching Illini, never the intention of teaching at the collegiate level. Everything that I went to school for was music education, was going to be a teacher. I loved teaching in the public schools. And then an opportunity came along to do grad school at the University of Illinois, and took that opportunity. Then that was the first taste of some collegiate marching band, of teaching it. Of course, I participated in it. And was going to get the graduate degree and go back to teaching high school. And then an opportunity opened up at Eastern Illinois University, and taught there for about 3 years. Loved every minute of it. It was fantastic. But then a phone call came from the University of Illinois, and here we are. Just finished year 15 at Illinois. Wow. Over 26 years of teaching in public education.
That is fantastic, and you are very beloved. I know so many students. Our very own Amanda Brennan was was one in there, talks about you all the time. But did you ever think that you would also moonlight almost as a meteorologist, as much as you have to keep track of the weather?
Big fan, Kevin, big fan, as you well know. And oftentimes you get some random, messages from me of like, all right, what are you seeing? Mm-hmm. Part of it. Yeah, I never thought that would be the case. And, I'm no expert by any means, but we definitely have used a variety of different apps, and some of them work better than others to help with that. Of course, we work and follow everything here at WCI3, especially since you guys are so local, and literally minutes away from our practice field and the stadium. And then, of course, with our emergency center on campus, there are certain guidelines we do have to follow, NCAA being one of them. When there's lightning in the area within 5 miles, if there's a lightning strike, we have to shut down for 30 minutes. And again, when we're dealing with right now 422 students in the 2026 edition of the Marching Illini, that's a lot of lives to make sure that we're keeping safe.
So it seems like, you guys practice a lot of times in the summertime, right? Like, and you've got a camp that you guys just did down in EIU. You've done this in some of the hottest times of the year, right? And then on the flip side of that, sometimes in the winter or fall, it becomes winter, and with football. So you guys are out, it seems like, in a lot of extremes. It seems like you don't get the nice just spring weather a lot of times.
No, we don't. And I think that's why we follow it so closely. So, yes, we just had a camp. It was optional, but several hundred of our students were here on campus Saturday, just to kind of get their feet wet before we get ready to go into preseason camp to get ready for this great fall season. As you mentioned, we have a summer camp that we run, not affiliated with the university, but that had 1,000 students from 28 different states over 3 weeks. So yeah, we're constantly watching that weather, and if there's any cells that are coming through, what that jet stream looks like. And again, I have no idea about any of that, but we watch that closely, just again, make sure that not only are we keeping them safe, but we're making sure it's a pleasant experience. It's been pretty humid these last couple days, so there would have been some different things that we would have done based on being inside, based on being outside, finding that balance, making sure people are hydrating and so forth.
So, and this is a question, I don't know fully the answer. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But is there any kind of science behind or how you guys prepare in terms of, does the humidity, does a warm day, a cold day impact the sound, the instruments? Like, talk a little bit about some of the specific things that are directly related to the weather conditions when it comes to playing. I don't know, the trombone, is it harder, it's harder for, to your air flow and everything. Like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of science. It's kind of like the weather, right? People just think these things just happen. And it's like, no, there's actually a great deal of science behind the acoustics of sound. And, there's certain ranges of sound. And so a lot of times in music, we always tune to A440. It's the frequency of sound. That A440 typically is not in tune perfectly unless it's 72 degrees.
Oh.
So when you look at that as your bass, if it's cooler, that's going to have a significant impact on the instruments, which means many of them are going to have to either elongate their instrument. That's why there's slides on some instruments. Trombones have it easiest because that just automatically, you just roll that slide out or in. And then the cooler weather as well has a significant impact on things. Some of our instruments that we have out there aren't all brass as well. So when you look at that, that's an important part of looking at what our overall sound contribution will be. We've got the great honor of being one of 10 bands going to be traveling to New York City for the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. That weather, you never know what that's going to be at the end of November in New York City. I've had every aspect of it being the coldest Thanksgiving on record to being very mild. So when we look at that, that's going to be an important part of our preparation as well.
That's super interesting. And again, I think it just kind of goes back to when the people are sitting and watching, they're not maybe thinking of the weather aspect and how that, part of the preparation goes into things. What about like wind? When there's like wind and things, because we seem to have a lot of windy days here in Central Illinois. How does wind kind of impact your preparations and game day kind of things?
Yeah, so when you look at the marching band activity, it is a standing event. They're out there moving around, walking, marching, whatever you're going to call it. We call it marching. But when you work on that, wind will have a significant impact on what things will do. When you look at the uniform itself, it has a cape. So that cape will fly all over the place. So that creates a little more resistance. You put a big band hat on their head with a big feather sticking out. Those things are about 18 inches tall. So that wind will have a significant impact on what's taking place on the formations. So that's a big part. And then if you look at the guard themselves, those are the ones holding the flags. And so that's a piece of fabric on an aluminum pole, 6-foot aluminum pole. If it's really windy, that's going to create a great deal of havoc. Typically speaking, if we have a football game and it's very windy, we're going to ground everything. So they're not going to do any tosses. If you've seen our pregame show and we do the patriotic medley right before the national anthem, we create the big star star on the field, and we pull about those red, white, and blue banners out. Those things are sails, and if it's really windy, those things will fly. The end of those have a piece of PVC pipe, so we don't want those things impacting anybody if that gets out of someone's hands.
Wow, super interesting. How do the students, how do they kind of handle the conditions? You know, you're kind of monitoring it and you know what's kind of going into it, and they probably have a little bit of an insight. How are they handling the heat, the cold? Like, what are the things that they're doing to kind of prepare and help themselves on a day where weather is not 72 degrees and sunny?
Yeah, we have, marching Illini values, and one of them is attitude of gratitude. The second one is remarkable respect, and that's a two-way street. So I think we've developed some trust. This isn't my first couple years of being here at the university, so I think our students know how I'm going to be looking out for them, how I'm going to trust them. They're going to trust me. They know that I'm not going to, toe the line to where I put their safety in jeopardy. So I think that's a big part of it. Very, very, kind of comically so, they know that I have 9 to 10 different weather apps on my phone. And if there's ever a slight pause in instruction from the tower that I stand on, they know it's usually because weather's coming. And they can see it, so that's a big part of that. I think, when it gets hot or when they're going to be dealing with hot weather or cooler weather, that's something we have to condition them with. So right now we're sending messages out to them. Hey, if you've been inside all summer and you've not conditioned yourself, you need to go outside for at least 20 minutes. I'm not telling you to go run, but take a walk. Start to condition your body, because when you get back here on campus, we're going to be going from 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. 7 days straight. And we provide ample breaks and ample times to hydrate and so forth. But if you've been inside all summer and the last time you've been outside was walking around campus in May here, that weather's drastically different, as we all know, here in August.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never, it makes complete sense. But yeah, if you're just parked inside an air conditioning of the, when it's been 110 outside and now you have to go out and do that, it's kind of, like any of us, your body adjust, and if you can put yourself in it there. But yeah, that completely makes sense. I wouldn't thought you were reaching out and telling them to do that. That's super interesting. You were talking about how when you're out there and conducting, you are the highest point on the field on your what do you call it, riser? And you're at the highest point there. So yes, you do have a real good incentive because lightning likes to strike the tallest object.
Yes, thankfully there's some lightning rods there that will help with that. But yeah, we don't ever want to put them in jeopardy. And there's no place to put 400 students out there where the field is at the corner of First and Gregory. There's not a pavilion. There's not a building that's large enough. So, we need to give ample time. That's the other part. If you see that storm cell coming through or you see that lightning, we're not going to say, all right, 3 more minutes. No, we're going to be leaving at that point in time just to get them to safety.
Have you had can you recall any instances, any weather events, severe weather kind of thing where things got a little dicey, okay, guys, we've got to go take shelter. We got to, we have to, do some evasive action. Can you recall anything that was significant that had occurred with you guys?
Yeah, I think, everything kind of beyond or in our control, we generally have been very proactive with. So thankfully, no stories to report there. That's a good news day, right?
Yeah.
When we look at some things, a football game a number of years ago was moved from a Saturday to a Friday. We knew there was going to be severe weather, but thought we were going to have a little bit more time. So we had already left the Armory. We always march out from the Armory to the stadium. That's just part of one of the game day traditions. Friday evening, everything looked great. Well, it's about a 15-minute march from the Armory to the stadium, and about 10 minutes in, the skies darkened quick. And as we started marching into the stadium, the announcer came over the intercom in the stadium saying, "Everyone take cover now." So we walk into an empty stadium, and the cover that we had was the Ark. So we're literally marching across the field with no one in the stadium to the Ark. And weather delay after weather delay, kickoff was supposed to be 7 p.m. We finally left the Ark at 10:15 p.m., no game, and the game was rescheduled to Saturday. So, thankfully, again, everyone was proactive with that, but that's probably the most that we've been caught out in that kind of weather.
Yeah, and that's the thing is sometimes those storms can just pop up like they do and do that. Let's shift gears on that a little bit. You had something similar just last year and Thanksgiving. We touched on a little bit there, but talk about that day. It was the Friday after Thanksgiving, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Or was it? It was a Saturday game.
Or was it Saturday? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's when we had that big snow event. It snowed like all day. Talk a little bit about that specific event, that day, and kind of how that all evolved.
Well, let's just say our seniors, everybody in the band will have a memory that will last forever. And so I'm going to backtrack just even a little bit because after Thanksgiving, we bring the students in a day early. We've gone an entire week without any type of practice, and we've got to be, again, national television ready for anything that's possible. So we bring everybody in Friday. So Friday, if we recall, fine. It was a little cool, but we saw all these weather forecasts saying, oh yeah, going to be this huge snowstorm coming in. And we're like, yeah, we'll see. You know how it is sometimes here in central Illinois. Sometimes we could get 5 inches. Sometimes it could be 2 inches. So we're going to still carry on like we normally do. And so we had a great evening rehearsal. It did start to snow at the tail end of that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, internally, the internal wannabe meteorologist in Barry Hauser came out and said, oh, we may actually have some snow here. This is going to be great. And then woke up the next morning, and it was an early rehearsal, and the phone calls started with athletics about 6 that morning saying, hey, we're going to pause everything. And, we're a big part of Illini walk, of making sure that the band is there to welcome the team. We start having phone calls with the coaching staff. All these things keep getting canceled. And meanwhile, watching out my office window at the historic Harding Band Building, the snow just keeps falling. And so students keep reaching out. I keep delaying things. I'm like, stay in, don't even report, don't come here yet. We don't know what we're going to do. Well, then we got to the point where we typically feed the students, and we reached that point, and I said, well, everybody come on over. We got food here for 400 people. And then, long story short, no pregame, no game day rehearsal even. We knew we were going to do halftime in the stands. Every media that took place, if you were watching from the comfort of your home, which was a great place to watch that game.
That was me.
Great game to watch from your home. Every media, nothing was on the field. They had shovels shoveling the yard lines and actual snowplows in the stadium, just getting the snow because they couldn't keep up with it. And at one point, I think at the end of the game when we won, you saw the football players there at the end zone with the Mount Memorial, or whatever you want to call it, as they were there hefting that trophy up. But it was unbelievable. We've never experienced anything like that before. Our students were just resilient, smiles on their faces as the ice and everything else pelted their faces. They were just true troopers right there. But a fantastic memory.
Yeah, for sure. There was a small crowd there. There was a small crowd there. It was not the normal packed stadium that day, but you guys, and I think it just goes back to what is. And I think in your business too is the show must go on.
Show must go on.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, goodness. Barry Hauser, we've got a couple minutes left here in the show. Tell me, what is your favorite weather? What's your favorite weather?
My favorite, I think living here in central Illinois, do love the change of the seasons. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I just love the summer. I love the warm weather. I love the sun. I'm probably learning to appreciate sometimes that fall weather when we get to experience that here. There's a lot of times, as we all know, that sometimes we go straight from really hot summer to all of a sudden it's cold. But yeah, the summer months are some of my favorite. I love being outdoors. Right now, I'm probably pushing some limits in terms of how warm it is. But that 80-degree weather with some sun, not a lot of humidity, that's pretty ideal.
Love it. All right, we got about a minute left here. What do you got coming up here this season with the Fighting Illini Marching Band?
Yeah, we're really excited. You know, the new video board, I think everyone's excited about that and some of the new elements that have been added to the stadium. So we're going to have some things that we do with that video board with the beginning of our pregame show. Really excited about welcoming our new students to the organization. And of course, got to mention again, you know, this Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in November. We are one of 10 bands for the 100th showing of Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So very excited about that. And of course, well, all that has to go with football. It's going to be a great season. Can't wait to see the new quarterback. Got the last name Hauser, so already had a pep talk with him. I said that Hauser last name means something, so let's make sure we make some things happen there.
Be careful that they don't like swap you guys. And
I don't think Coach wants that at all, but you know, it's good.
Love it. Well, listen, definitely good luck to you here the upcoming season, and we're all going to be watching in November for sure. And I'm going to do my best to dial up some of the best weather that I can for that, but
I appreciate that.
No promises, but I'm gonna do my very best. Ladies and gentlemen, Barry Hauser, director of the Fighting Illini Marching Band. Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you, Kevin. ILL.
All right, I, baby. All right, guys, we are gonna wrap up the show here. Thanks so much for joining us on another edition of Behind the Forecast. We'll see you guys again next time.